They start things off with here on the blue side. Origen ban the Zed away.
Wow.
That was quick.
So for people who did listen to all our fill for the last 15 minutes, we did talk about Zed, obviously as a purple side pick. Great last pick potential for some of these mid laners in Europe who love to play Assassins. Origen respecting it very clearly, but there's a lot of picks we're looking at in here, like Lucian is the number 1 AD carry. Caitlyn comes in as a close second. Obviously then Kindred, Nidalee, Braum against Hyper. There's a Lucian ban from G2.
But all mid lane bans from Origen's side, and LeBlanc was taken away.
Interesting, because there's still like a Zia, Ryze, Victor,
which
all
have been
these
banned
picks
so heavily in all the 610 we've seen so far.
Yeah,
there's the Ryze.
Okay, so Origen in many ways setting up for like a Zia first pick. In this case, we've seen that multiple times over in the LCK, over in the LPL. But then G2 can still get a Victor pick later on in the rotation and get like a Caitlyn second or first rotation for G2. And that's a good trade as well. Both Kindred and Nidalee are open at this point. Bard being banned, so both teams are looking to just trade junglers. Unless we get a sneaky Rek'Sai potentially coming in, something that's been played a lot as well around the world.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that is in fact what comes in. But with those potentially being traded back and forth, you have to think that Azir first pick is a strong possibility.
With 3 mid lane bans, definitely
there's
a
so
strong
much of the pool
possibility.
bled, but as you mentioned, there's still the Victor available. I want to see what Origen's plan is here, trying so heavily on the mid lane ban field.
Yeah, that's my problem with all these mid lane bans, is there are still 2 so super strong picks left in both Victor and Azir that most mid laners in the world will be more than fine with taking. Origen is clearly saying, like, it's actually funny here because we have a lot of situations where you just trade. You can trade Nidalee for Kindred if you're G2. You can trade Azir for Victor for either team. So Origen is saying, you know what, we actually value the Nidalee above everything else. So we give you Kindred, and we also give you first pick on either Victor or Azir, if that's what you want to go for. But Caitlyn is also open. We know both these AD carries are very good Caitlyn players, and it's a lot about who can get the strongest 2v2 matchup. Now that we have all this dragon control coming in, you want to control the bottom side of the map. That's where Caitlyn really shines.
Yeah, so the Kindred doesn't necessarily have to be picked up on this rotation. Don't expect it to go over on Origen's side now that the Nidalee has the first pick. There is the Caitlyn. It's also a Ekko that comes in very quickly. This one should go to Kikis unless they want to pull some really weird swap rounds. I don't think so, though.
Another trade situation where you have Maokai Ekko. You can give Maokai to one team, pick Ekko yourself. It just depends on which one you value the highest. I think this Caitlyn pick, I know we talked about it so much already in this champ select. I think it's really, really important for these 2 AD carries facing each other. Bot lane meta right now is a lot about picks more than straight up individual skill, because there's so many of these strong lane bullies you can run.
Not to mention the individual skill is pretty darn high on the AD carry.
It is extremely high as well for both teams, but we talk about Maokai, you can trade him if you are G2, or we can maybe see something like a Trundle coming in for Soaz if you want to have a split pushing composition where you want to try and counter the Ekko. There are multiple options, and it's fun to see how we are still in a meta where almost every game there's so many top tier picks open. Like, go back, you know, go back to Season 5, and a lot of times people would just ban out of the OPs, and then everyone would get second tier picks. Now there's so many tier 1 picks that you can keep just trading, and then have a few target bans.
Yeah, and the Corki comes in on OG's side there, and the Maokai, as expected, is locked for Soaz.
Oh, I am not the biggest Corki fan.
Yeah, that was something we saw quite a lot of way earlier in the split. We also saw it mid lane. PerkZ was actually one of the ones that did popularize it. I very much doubt to see it mid lane here.
It received a lot of nerfs over the few patches. You know, if you go back a month, even a few weeks back, so not a few weeks, but 2 months back, it got quite a lot of nerfs, and it didn't get played at all at MSI. It was no longer a viable pick. It is an old forgiven one as an AD carry choice. Obviously, level 6, you are very, very strong on Corki. Once you can start trading, probably once you get Trinity Force, we always know the pick. And the power spikes. Kindred coming in, not a surprise.
And the Soraka.
Soraka. We saw SKT played earlier today. Wolf still picking the Soraka, and it is still, even though there's so many nerfs that happen to Soraka and grievous wounds and everything, it still has a ton of value, because the amount of healing you can ditch out in these fights, especially in the big team fights, is insane, and you can't really apply the healing debuff to every single member. It's very hard to then kind of like shoot it around and always keep applying it to everyone, so Soraka ulti still have quite some value.
Yeah, always able to get those heals off very quickly. A lot of sustain for G2's side just because of it. And we'll have to see what Origen want to answer with to round out their bot lane. The Corki, as we mentioned, a little bit unusual, but these 2 bot lanes Can't wait to see them butt heads against one another. It's going to be really, really crazy. The Varus comes in at the last second here. That should be a PowerOfEvil special. A lot of poke, actually. Yeah, a little bit. That's a lot of poke, along with the Janna.
As soon as OG saw the Caitlyn, said, okay, we're not going to win the bot lane straight up, so we are going to draft a composition instead, where every single pick has a lot of synergy. So we have poke from 3 members, you have the big frontline tank, and you have the full disengage Janna, obviously from the support. So this is a 100% poke composition from Origen side. G2, on the other hand, have a lot more options here. Decent siege with of course, a Caitlyn pick. Can still lock in like TF. You have range jungler.
I don't know, man. Also last time we saw PerkZ play Twisted Fate.
Sure, it wasn't the greatest for him, but there are other picks.
In the situation, it's good, yes.
There are a lot of picks in the meta who can punish a blind pick Varus. Fizz can be one of them.
With the Fizz.
Like, Faker obviously used it a ton at MSI. It is a good pick in the mid lane as full AP Fizz, unless you want to put it top lane, build a tank, and you put the Ekko mid. It's actually something we've seen quite a lot, especially over in China, where people like to put Ekko in mid against like a Varus pick, like some of these poke, because Ekko is so mobile. He can always stick to this target and also get to the target, and he can threaten ganks with his W on these low mobility targets.
What do you value more against the Varus pick, though, especially considering PowerOfEvil? The Ekko or the Fizz?
I mean, Fizz will snowball much harder and be a much better split pusher as a full AP Fizz in the late game. So that is what G2 is deciding on as well. Yes, Fizz will lose very early on. He will get pushed into his tower. He will hate his life until he goes back at least once. But then it's all about how much pressure you have around him in lane. Because if you actually have the river control with pink wards, suddenly Fizz knows he's not going to get ganked, and he can start all-inning at level 6. Land that ulti from Fizz, and then suddenly Varus is not going anywhere, and you can actually get onto him. But it requires that river control.
Well, we'll have to find out. Now the lineups are all locked in. It's time to load up for our first marquee matchup of the summer of 2016.
It was an upgrade to get Mithy and Zven on the lineup.
Zven and Mithy are definitely the best both in the West.
Even though they're good, I think me and Forgiven can step up and be better than them.
They'll soon realize that the grass is always green on the other side.
We have no clue how strong we are yet, and we have no clue how strong they are yet.
I don't know what to expect against G2.
If they can control their aggressiveness, they will be a good bot lane. If not, they will get punished.
It's gonna depend about like how well they match together.
I mean, we need to win.
And we're on the Rift. Don't forget to keep sending your tweets in to think who's going to take this one away. OG win or hashtag G2 win at LOL Esports is the place. Origen marching down the mid, turn their attention actually upriver right now. Whereas G2 were looking to build themselves a line of scrimmage, try to prevent any areas of ingress.
And we are most likely going to see an OG team opting into a lane swap here. When you play Janna, you do not want to play her against sustained supports, especially not against the likes of Soraka. Also, Corki in the early levels versus Caitlyn is not a great matchup for the Corki. Wants that level 6, wants to get closer to the Trinity Force, mainly the Sheen. So Origen will get the deep wards in, try and set the stop, but look at G2, they're all staying around. We might get a level 1 fight.
Yeah, Power's going to send a piercing arrow through. Throwing a sapling, going to spot Kikis. Mithy stepping a little farther forward here.
Do not send in the Soraka
have some beef
to
right
face
now.
check. Mithy's like, guys, I'm going.
Minions have spawned.
Okay.
He's going to check again.
Still,
Q over the wall.
Yeah, they're not leaving this. Fighting for every inch of the Rift at level 1.
Just making sure you get information on where Origen is going. They haven't been able to recall, so everyone is still on top side.
Late bid. Mithy's still causing a little bit of problems for OG as they push their way further in to back to their own territory.
See how Zven is just snuck in behind, saying, okay, you guys are all on top side. If you want to play a lane swap, you're going to be delayed going to the bottom side. So we will get a slight advantage here in the early start of the lane swap because you're already here. We saw you on top side. That's why Mithy getting that extra information level 1 when they walked out was important. So they knew, okay, Origen, you're going to have to take a long route to the bottom side to get your lane swap. And Kikis misses the first 2 CS. The crowd saw it instantly. And now he gets
a little
2
bit
of them. Mr. No.
Hybrid holding on for Forgiven to be able to grab that CS back. But yes, let's talk a little bit about this lane swap because it became such a predictable thing towards the end of the last split. We could see how each lane swap would pretty much play out, but it's changed just a little bit now with the prioritization on Dragons and deprioritization of Rift Herald. Talk me through it a little bit more.
Well, first of all, it's going to depend a lot on the teams. How much value do you put on that first Dragon? You can see the first one in this game. is already spawned here. So how much value do you put on the first dragon? So you can potentially take the bot lane tower and then just recall and return to the bottom lane. And you play the 2v2 and you have control on bottom side. You can play the still standard swap where you take tier 1 towers and you just keep trading tier 1 towers. I don't think we're going to see a lot of games where we get like those 4 towers on each side. So like 8 towers going down before anyone kills each other.
Yeah.
Those kind of plays.
Though in the ones.
Yeah, I mean we can technically see it, but a lot of teams value getting that 2v2 lane in around the bottom side to get control for these early dragons and not opt into this full lane swap. One thing you can do though is you can actually use your teleport more offensively in swaps. So here Soaz stayed top to try and get some experience to stay in range of it, and then he used the teleport to the bottom side. Right here, and then one of the reasons for it is we see less of these situations where you set up these massive tower dives in swaps, and more situations where once the first few towers are dead, you just opt into the standard lanes, and then you don't really need to teleport to catch anything. You don't need to teleport to set up a crazy play. You just kind of walk straight into your lane. So you can see Soaz opted in to get a bit of experience, and then TP down to get the tower on bottom side.
Yeah. Only a few moments behind what G2 was doing, regardless of the fact that they had that teleport in there a little bit quicker. So everything's still fairly standard, even on the gold game. Get to see those 2v2 swap back around. But as you mentioned, PerkZ having a lot of trouble against Power in this very early mid lane. The two meeting each other up.
Fizz is one of the weaker mid laners when it comes to level 1 through 4 or 5. He wants his level 6, he wants that first back, get a bit more sustain, get a few defensive components in there. Kikis getting ganked right now by Amazing.
Going hunting here.
Whoops.
And he takes the time winder on the back, so Kikis gets the last laugh in that gank attempt. Nothing doing there. Teams likely not to go for the Drake really early. Obviously, they want that 2v2 like you mentioned. It's also Cloud Drake, which we've seen very little prioritization of on 6.10 so far.
Yeah, it's not even tier 1 boost you get out of combat from the first Cloud Drake, so sucky
speed, but not a whole lot, yeah.
No one likes it. Everyone flames it all the time, poor guy. But we see a G2 and Origen both opting in for another trade, tier 1 tower for tier 1 tower. Obviously the reason Kikis almost got ganked there was because you want to push out that wave after tower goes down, so you delay how fast the enemy team can move up to the next tower with their dual lane, and also you get that extra experience and farm. Yeah. You see Kikis is level 3 already, but so is Soaz.
And for Origen's bot lane, that has duo lane, I guess I should call it, because they've been all over the place so far. This should definitely help out Forgiven not being bullied so much by Zven in the early game. So this trade seems to benefit them a little bit more. I mean, it's kind of 50-50, but they avoid that laning phase that can be oppressive.
It's what we talked about. Origen were not looking to lane early on against G2's 2v2 lane. Also, Maokai can struggle against the Ekko in the first few levels, so it's very smart for Origen to get the swap. Yeah. Amazing is on bottom side here, which is a little bit odd for him to stay around.
I draw a little bit of fire, but he's kind of playing with it there. Jumps it over, still gets hit by the Soraka. Still, they'll just kind of trade turrets as normal. Yeah,
normal situations, you would have seen Amazing on top side, like steal away the crooks you see up here in G2's jungle, but try to be a bit annoying on bottom side, snipe out a few minions, get a bit of experience. Just a little bit out of place, but he did take the camp that Trick was going for, because Trick was actually taking the normal jungle route in the swap. It's the mind game, Spyro. Now he's gonna find it.
Goes hunted, and he's got some help from Power. Trick might be first blooded in this game. He's gotten healed up by Mithy, but will it be enough? No! First blood, and Amazing has got to get out of town. Turns around, give a little bit of help back over to Mithy, but in comes Kikis to get the revenge kill, and PerkZ manages to answer onto Power. A 2-for-1 trade for G2 eSports.
So Trick got so surprised that Amazing was still on the bottom side, because there was technically nothing for Amazing to do. Realizes the camp is gone, obviously roams through what's normally a free jungle for him, and suddenly Nidalee is there, and then Varus comes down collapsing. Origen gets a kill, but because G2 were on the bottom side with more members, we had, of course, Mithy roaming up, we had PerkZ roaming down. So look here, Trick is getting surprised, like what is Amazing doing here at this point? The rest of Origen is not even close by, but Mithy, because G2 are on the bottom side, they control the bottom side, can roam up, delay it a little bit, Kikis can join in, PerkZ can join in, and suddenly now, Origen find themselves in a massive numbers disadvantage, and that's why you normally would never take a fight on the side where the enemy team is much, much stronger and have multiple members when your guys have just recalled, or is a Maokai with no teleport sitting on top side.
Yeah. All that said and done, G2 did not actually finish off the turret in the bottom side, so despite the fact that they have the kill advantage, Origen are actually in a gold lead at the moment, and with Forgiven and Hybrid on this bottom side to push the wave in, they might be able to keep that alive for some time yet. We're only 7:30 into this game, but I mean, it's already been very back and forth, a little unusual.
And again, it just shows the surprise fact, honestly. because Zven had already recalled, because he was obviously so used to your top laner finishing the tower, so he recalled to rush to the top side during that fight. But then Kikis saw there was a chance for him to go in and get a kill, and he didn't manage to finish the tower. So just a few little changes there. Not something we're going to see every game. That's not exactly the lane of meta that your jungler is randomly going to gank the other jungler. But
nothing for granted this game though, Deficio. It's all, you can't make the assumptions all the time. So
it actually means Origen gets out ahead because they get a tower on top side.
Yep. Oh, given a lot of damage from the Piltover Peacemaker. Healed up. Zven is fine. Shield comes in a little bit late for Forgiven. Amazing though is trying to bait this one out. He does manage to hit a spear onto Mithy. Meanwhile, Trick up in the top side, clearing away Skull Crabs. Looking for maybe a gank on Power, who's staying relatively safe for hugging his tower, but in comes the Fish, Chains of Corruption, another piercing arrow. Trick is coming in, slowed up. There is a teleport coming down, but will it be too late? Power is going down. PerkZ picks up the kill credit for that one as Soaz comes in to try and return fire, but Trick is out of there.
And we talked about this in Champ Select. When you blind pick that Varus, some of these picks that can just get onto him very, very easy. PerkZ gets his ulti, straight onto PowerOfEvil with no flash. That's an easy kill and very important. Trick as well managed to just get out of tower range before the snare came in from Soaz, so he didn't get locked onto tower. And therefore G2 can now disengage. It's a big, big problem for Origen with this Varus pick in the mid lane. They actually want to get out of this laning phase. They want to have PerkZ leave PowerOfEvil alone and just allow Origen to play this pushing game where you land poke and you siege tower. But PerkZ is obviously never going to stop trying to look for picks. There are 4 extremely squishy members on Origen, and then the Maokai, who you will probably never really want to sit against anyway, because you want to have kill pressure every time. I mean, late game, he's just going to kill the Maokai too, but that's whatever.
Yeah, but at the moment, right now, they've still got these big problems in trying to keep the squishy members alive. PowerOfEvil just barely didn't have his exhaust back up. Obviously, some more time before the flash was going to come back, but without any summoners, even though he looked like he was playing safe, you cannot underestimate, especially a player like PerkZ. 2-0 kills now on this Fizz. We talked about how hard it snowballs. He's on track to do it.
Yeah, Fizz is one of the weaker early game mid laners, but one of the best late game mid laners we've had since forever, almost in the game. Like, his scaling is insane also because not only does he have insane damage, he also has survivability because of Trickster. Very low cooldown, gets out last, can always use it to buy more time. Trick is here, and now Clouddrake's like, oh, you have friends? No, he's actually killing your ward, now he's going to kill you. So poor Clouddrake, one more time, no one likes it, but
they see him
OG's going to stop
with the ward that they did put down. So now Trick a little bit low here. It's a 1500 Clouddrake. It might be worth the fight over.
Remember, Soaz...
Oh! Smarted away by Trick, secures it.
Oh, that was risky. Like, Soaz had no teleport, and Kikis did have TP. So technically, G2 could just set up this dragon and told Origen, if you want to fight, we're going to TP on you before we fight you. Instead, it became a 50-50 smite.
Not something we expected for Clouddrake either.
To be fair though, the reason G2 didn't want to invest everything, it's because it's Clouddrake. They actually just want to kill the dragon to get the next dragon to spawn, which is again the sad life of the Clouddrake.
Yep. So first one over to G2, they do get that plus 15 move speed. Now we'll talk about that later because the Chains of Corruption are on to Mithy, who has to flash. As Amazing is exhausted, down Trick comes in for some relief, pitching the fishes on. Hybrid getting chomped, and now PerkZ gets a killing spree to pick up Amazing, looks for power, return, that's a double kill for the fish. And Kikis, Chrono breaks back to safety. Origen, the rest of them, way too late to the party here. G2, 6 kills on the board.
Yeah, G2 is getting everything right now. Great team fight in the mid lane, PerkZ, more kills. It is not often we see a mid lane Fizz be 4-0 at 11 minutes.
You don't watch enough LMS, man. What about Westor?
Westor will lose lane every game.
That's very true.
But then like at 30 minutes, he will have a good team fight and get a few kills.
You're right, we don't see it that often. Let's take a look at this fight again from a top or a higher up view. Mithy just gets completely chunked, flashes away, but then they don't have much left.
But again, this is the whole problem for Origen that we keep talking about. It's a siege composition. You want to land poke, you want to pressure on tower. They opt into a fight against double TP, and you can see how fast G2 is saying, oh, you're engaging, you're overextending in a lane, instant TP, we're just gonna take that fight, more kills for PerkZ. Yes, there's now cooldown on the teleport for him, but I'll trade that for 2 more kills.
Definitely any day. So another tower does get taken by G2. Finally finish off the one on the bottom side. They kind of left not fully digested. So gold lead is actually fairly significant here. It's about 2 and some change for G2, 2.5.
And the amount of plays Origen can make now, they're shrinking. It gets harder and harder for them to make a correct move. Because if they ever overextend and don't push out the side lanes first, G2 can just roam in behind them through their jungle and always threaten their flank. And when you play a poke competition, when you play these very squishy champions, flanking is what you want to make sure never happens. Because if they can set up an easy flank, then Janna has one disengage with her Monsoon from all angles. But against an Ekko with his mobility, against a Fizz with Trickster, it's very hard to disengage properly against that flank.
And it's hard for Origen to really find members to pick off here. You could see it just a moment ago. Kikis was able to pretty much zone Amazing away completely just with the parallel convergence. PerkZ has been nigh impossible to catch thanks to the playful Trickster. And Zven is able to get out of any dangerous situation thanks to Soraka's sustain. They just have so much backup. How do OG break into this lineup?
I mean, yeah, that's a tough question because their composition isn't built to be able to come back from such a disadvantage.
Why would you draft that knowing that
I mean,
they're not coming in as necessarily the favorites? Yes, they're a strong team, but G2, the Spring Split champions, picked up their bot lane. It's a tough team to face off against.
It's important to always highlight that no team will always draft a comp and fall behind. So when you draft these poke comps here, if you play out a good lane swap in the start, if you are even coming into the mid game where you get your Trinity Force, where you get your first item on Varus, and you get to push out your side lanes and then group mid, it's extremely effective. But because your mid laner had that early fight, lost his flash, then he gets tower dive, so he's down. Then you go a little bit too ham for 2 kills in mid and you once again die. Well then your composition will obviously look extremely weak because you have now fallen much further behind than you were ever supposed to. So Origen are in a super tough spot now. Technically what they want to try and do is see if they can push out one of the waves with Forgiven and then move into the mid lane so you can sit with PowerOfEvil and start landing a bit of poke, potentially land an ulti from PowerOfEvil and create a pick that way like under a tower. The problem is G2 should never allow them to like push out these side lanes. Because you have Ekko there who's a strong play pusher. You have Fizz who's extremely fed and can kill anyone. So basically, Origen is under pressure every single day.
Yeah, we're seeing that evidence too. The waves pushing against them pretty much every which way and where. G2 are really keeping them penned into the second, third or whatever of their base. Look at where the wards are. The farthest one out that Origen have is this one pink ward in the River Brush, just a little bit south of Dragon Pit. The rest is all in their jungle. So they really can't keep track of where G2 are when they're not invading their territory.
Right.
And something has got to give sooner or later. So Golden just keeps on growing right now. We're at still at about 2.6K in favor of G2. Dragon will be available in another minute, depending on which one it is. We have to take a look down there. It's still looking great for G2.
Yeah, as long as the lineup here of G2 just never let Origen set up an easy group in mid lane, they can just keep taking Dragon. Seems to be another Cloud Drake.
It's still a little unfortunate there, but hey man, you get plus 15 extra move speed out of combat, that's more than basic boost.
Let's not try and make Cloud Drake sound good, Pyra. This is one of the problems with the RNG, obviously with the Dragons, is when you have this composition that technically should be rewarded for playing such a good early game and you have full control of the map, you normally would say, give them an Infernal Drake, give them a Mountain Drake, they deserve it, they played really well. You hand them the Cloud Drake, which means the snowballing is not as effective for G2, but their composition will still be more than fine also the later we get into the game. They just won't get the extra benefit from Dragons, and that is obviously the big downside of this RNG right now. OG is very happy. It's like, oh great, another Cloud Drake, fine. Sure, we can give that one away as well. We don't really care too much. And we can try and get a second item under our belt. Maybe if they go for Dragon, we try and push in the lane. Then maybe we can get a group and try and answer poke, and that might be our only way back in the game.
Definitely have to play very, very careful for now. Trick does jump over a little bit too late, but Amazing and Hybrid had already gotten away. So OG starting to push out just a little bit more on this mid lane, still hanging tough on that tier 1. They've obviously lost the same in the top and the bottom, but now PerkZ and Trick will be able to double time onto the Rift Herald. And I know you have some particular opinions about how this guy's been reworked.
Oh yeah, Rift Herald right now is not the strongest thing in the game. I mean, the Rift Herald itself is pretty strong. He got buffed. He hurts quite a bit. But he's not very important to kill. Because we don't really see these pure split pushes very often, except for the likes of a Fizz, who gets 4 early kills. Then suddenly it has some value. But the main reason G2 actually takes Rift Herald here is because it's too early in the game to start setting up these crazy tower dives. It's too risky also with towers doing so much more early damage now. So for them, they're kind of just waiting it out and just making sure to take everything in the river, Dragon, Rift Heralds, they just get everything, wait for Baron to spawn potentially, start setting up a Baron, then force Origen to move in, get flanked, move in blind, then suddenly you win the team fight. It's just a much safer approach from G2 than starting to dive every single tower at 17 minutes. But it is great on a Fizz, who is extremely fed and in a side lane. So there's a small win for the Rift Herald.
Yeah, it gives some opportunity still for G2 to now dedicate a little bit more time to trying to split push on the side with just the one Fizz. PerkZ is just such a monster right now, 4-0, that only makes him scarier. Cloud Drake gets picked up by PerkZ, or by Trick rather. PerkZ. Continue to extend just a little bit more movement speed buff. Yeah, it's not all that important, but every little thing you can grab is good while keeping Origen still penned up inside their base. You know, the line of traps, the net is just kind of closing very, very slowly, and Origen looking for any way to break out and get back into this game.
Yeah, again, we kill that second Cloud Drake to see what the third one is. Did we just see that was another Cloud Drake? Are we actually getting 3 Cloud Drakes in a row? Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
We're actually getting 3 Cloud Drakes in a row.
Okay, so at that point, you basically get like a regular upgraded boost extra out of combat.
I mean, you get even more when you get the third one.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Plus 45 if you get all 3.
Okay, G2's going to be very fast.
Yeah.
They're going to be very unhappy with the Drakes. They would have wanted Infernal and Mountain for sure.
Well, if they clear it really, really fast, maybe they'll get something
Yeah,
out.
Man, I've seen 3 Infernals in a row. I haven't seen 3 Cloud Drakes so far.
I think you're just hurting his feelings, and he's just trying to prove you wrong about how good it is. Meanwhile, G2, though, they're going to be able to, not without a little bit of extra effort, take this top tower. PerkZ gets a little bit of punishment. Oh, and it's kept alive by Origen very narrowly, but they are going to collect on that cash pretty soon. Now, another minute, Baron hits the Rift. Yes, it's really, really early, but with how powerful G2 are, does that not become a possibility with Forgiven being stunned up by the Parallel Convergence? Half his health is gone in the blink of an eye, just Kikis.
Yeah, basically, you just set up a few pink wards around it, so you know you have the vision control near the Baron, and there's always the threat of you sneaking it. Origen always have to be like, oh, do you have have a blue trinket ready? Can we spot anything? No. Do we maybe have to go in and face check at 24, 25 minutes, and that gives the opening for G2 with double TP. So far, G2 is doing everything they should do. Don't overextend. Don't go too crazy. Take your dragons, take your Rift Hells, control the river at all costs, which they have been doing. That little pink ward down the bottom from Origen,
still sitting there.
It shouldn't be too proud because it's just there because no one cares about it. No one cares about that bush right now. So the pink ward is still there. Maybe it could be a TP location for Soaz in the future, but right now it's really not important. And you just see Caitlyn mid lane putting up her traps. She's never really going to be surprised. And then it's all about what Fizz and Ekko can do in the 2 side lanes.
Yeah, and how they can keep the vision on. PerkZ does clear out another one, courtesy of the pink ward, but you can see Origen continually investing in these pink wards, trying their damnedest just to stay relevant. CS-wise, they've actually kept up relatively well, but it's really just been a lot of back and forth, and the gold obviously tells a different story with 4,000 gold lead plus on G2's side. They finally knocked down top tier 2 tower.
Crazy Rift Herald buff here. Value from PerkZ getting in, hitting that tower once. With it, it is good, obviously, for him.
Well, one by himself.
You know, some damage reduction, bit of extra damage as well.
It's so hard to see who on Origen can really deal with him right now in
no one.
a 1v1 situation.
No one is ever going to be able to deal with him.
But how many people do they have to bring to the party? Trick has already got his back there, so it's not going to happen with Amazing. And this jungle pretty much is owned by G2, top and front.
Yep, been the same, honestly, for the last, what, 8-9 minutes?
Yep, and another tower that outer mid will finally fall. So we're hitting 21 minutes on the mark. G2 get themselves, that's only the 4th tower of the game. Doesn't seem like that many for them, but it's double what Origen have got. They continue to push this pressure game, and it is a more controlled G2 that we're seeing from what we saw previously at MSI in the finals at Rotterdam. They're not diving in gung-ho.
Yes.
They don't need to. They know they can just slowly strangle Origen to death.
It's a G2 playing the correct style right now, and using the advantage the correct way. They're just unlucky, honestly. They get Cloud Drakes only, so they don't really get anything else they can really use.
Hey man, Baron's there now.
Baron is here.
Okay.
So you can see already a few pink wards has been placed on top side from G2 around this Baron here, because you will see this vision control there. Once you push out the 2 side lanes, again, you can threaten the Baron. And G2 might even try and say, okay, we put PerkZ on bottom side, only Soaz can stand in that lane because he won't just instantly get killed on the tower. And then we force a play on top side, force Soaz to TP, and then you just swap Kikis to the bottom side because he has another teleport, and then no one can sit there from Origen because then you have no global, and you see Soaz here on the bottom side, you see G2 move to the Baron. So they're basically saying, guys, now we have the option, try and force a fight, use TPs from both Soaz and PerkZ. After the fight, we put Kikis bottom side, and then no one from OG can go to the bottom side because then we can just 5-man Baron and they can't stop us because one guy's left in the bottom lane.
And in the meantime, they just won 3-1 pretty much into oblivion. So yeah, the double teleport advantage definitely working wonders for them. It's so hard to see Origen coming back into the
Trick can jump the wall, there you go.
Start it off.
So now we get the start of the Baron. Again, Worst case for G2, they force a teleport from Soaz. That's it. Best case, they get the Baron.
And it's already at half of its health. So they do peel off of it here for just a second.
Ah.
As Hybrid was going to check, so they don't want to do this in vision.
Could have committed a little bit more with Zven also coming in. He had the trap set up here. You see the entrance to the Baron. Caitlyn on red side can block these two entrances very easy with her traps. But they didn't actually fully commit to get TP, and that's why it became a bit of half-assed attempt, where like, okay, never mind, let's just back out, and we didn't actually get
almost
the teleport. Yeah, could have obviously moved in Zven if you want to fully commit to, but it's still very early in the game, Pyra. There's no reason to try and throw away this lead, but 4 pink wards near the Baron, as we talked about.
That's a lot of investment. Nobody's obviously keeping track of the next Cloud Drake, which is due to come up in about 20 seconds. So I know when he's out on the Rift, he's your favorite guy. Maybe we'll get to see more of him in this game.
Maybe.
At this point, obviously, there's the Baron to fight for instead, but there aren't any easily obtainable towers. I'm curious to see if PerkZ tries to go for the dive onto Soaz, because being Maokai, it's going to be so hard for him to just take him down really easily, but there we go. He hops in, he gets the poke, he hops out, keeps the wave cleared, keeps Soaz occupied.
Yeah, there's no reason for PerkZ to like all in and risk potentially dying or having to use too much and not even get the kill. Pick up another dragon. Maybe when you roll the dice at number 4.
Like, he doesn't even need Trick to really be here for this, does he?
I know. I mean, Trick can also just go down and solo the dragon.
Yeah.
Easy for him.
It's not a huge investment for G2 at the moment. PerkZ will go ahead and swing up to grab himself a blue buff. But still, Origen trying to find holes that they can slip through to grab themselves more map vision and map control. They haven't really been able to grab much outside of their own jungle, with the exception of 1 or 2 just outside of the Baron pit. That is Cloud Drake number 3, by the way, so G2 are going to be real.
The last thing you want to see, 3 Cloud Drakes in a row under a team here. Hybrid did see a chance to get a few pink wards played out.
Kikis is in a 1v2 situation right now, too. This is a little bit dangerous. Backs away. So Origen have actually taken advantage of this one momentary lapse to be able to get themselves more vision, or at least clear out the vision, but G2 are still throwing this gold lead. They're still moving the snowball down the hill. 7K in the lead.
Yeah, when you get this far behind with a composition that doesn't do well once you're behind, and also against a champion like Fizz who gets so extremely fed early on, it's very, very small wins you're looking for. Like you just said, move in and clear out a few pink wards and buy you a little bit of time, force G2 to go back, buy some new wards, and then place them one more time. So you just, again, you get a little bit of time. The problem is, again, this Fizz is not going to get weaker. You just get into a point where Maokai becomes an extreme tank in the late game. Corki, of course, on 3 items is strong, but Origen will have 1 team fight to get back in this game. If they lose that team fight, G2 will just go straight down and finish the matches.
And at what point do you start questioning some of the decisions made in the pick and ban? I know you don't want to draft something that you would tend to be behind, but we talked about this Corki being something that was a fallback choice for Forgiven. Would it have done, I mean, it's sitting at 0-0-0, and he pretty much has a very, very quiet game. Would there have been anything that would have worked a little bit better for this team? Would a Sivir, for instance, have been a little bit of a better choice paired up with the Maokai?
I think you could have said draft a Sivir, draft an Israel, and then early pick an Azir as an example, and actually just completely change your composition and run.
True, he went through the pick ban.
A more standard team fighting comp, because it was Nidalee first pick, but that was just a trade for Kindred, and it's a trade a lot of teams are fine taking because they are the 2 best junglers. And especially Trick has always been a jungler who we're fine giving a top tier pick and just kind of be left with whatever was left. Yeah. But when it's a Kindred, you're very happy. So Origen didn't really gain anything from the first 2 rotations where they got a Corki and they got a Nidalee, traded over for Caitlyn and Kindred.
Ooh, that was a quick flash burn by Hybrid. Now G2 looking for more on the chase, but the rest of Origen are here. So nothing will come of that one. Still, we don't see the death time or the death numbers tick any further, but the pressure on the waves is still there. PerkZ in the top lane. Nobody's in the bot, but it's a massive wave starting to build up, and Kikis throws down a convergence, forcing Hybrid to send out the Howling Gale. G2 are just trying to set up for this Baron right now. They have all the members here to be able to do it with PerkZ zoning around the outside. They should be able to begin this.
Slowly, Origen are moving into the river. Fizz is behind.
Might be the fight they're looking for.
There we go.
Oh, there's the fish onto PowerOfEvil. Half his health is gone just like that, despite the Janna shield. And he goes golden. Hybrid knocking him back for just a second, but PerkZ will finish the job. Chains of Corruption lands. Amazing, looking for the execution. Not going to happen. Soraka makes a wish. Soaz a little low in this one after they peeled off the Baron. All said and done, it is a 1-0 for G2.
So once again, G2 are baiting around the Baron. Origen moving in will actually get a mid tower as well. So the fact that Origen finally got to group, didn't get punished, with teleports, but you can see the minion waves on the sides are pushing very far in and very close to Origen's base. G2's getting a little bit too greedy here on starting these Barons.
Yeah, Zven's low, Mithy is incredibly low. Soaz sees his time to be able to run in on that one, but he gets hit by the 90 caliber. He's got to back out G2 now. Don't make those mistakes after such a beautiful early game.
Right, G2 did so many things correct the first 24 minutes, 25 minutes of the game. And then, when they actually had the chance to set up the same play, put PerkZ bot lane against the Maokai, start the Baron, force teleports, then swap it around with Kikis, they just opted straight into a fight where Origen are allowed to be 5 together. This is the only way Origen can come back in the game, is if they get to team fight as 5 and never get split up on the map. And that's what G2 just actually allowed to happen.
Nearly 1-for-1.
1-for-1, very close fight, PerkZ almost going down, mid tower dying because the rest of G2 is around the Baron. Small victories, again, always keep in mind, Origen wants small victories. 1 kill here, 1 tower there. And G2, once again, back on Baron.
Eyes on the prize.
No TPs at all available, but they're getting it very low before Origen has even reacted. Look at this, amazing, it's very far away.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to be able to react to this one. So G2 pick up the Baron at a low price. 29 minutes on the clock, and they get themselves a few minutes to work with that Baron buff. Let's see what they can make of it.
Slightly longer than normal, the good old Baron buff, to make sure he's not completely useless compared to a big Elder Drake.
Speaking of Drakes, next one will be up in another minute, and well, it's no longer a Cloud Drake, but it's the Ocean. Which is not as useful either.
Yeah, late game especially not that useful, getting the 4%, where a lot of the times you will be in fights, obviously with champions or towers, so it won't give you that much sustain. Definitely not been a game where G2 has been lucky with dragons, that's for sure. But Origen have been very lucky with the amount of, or with the choices for G2. Still, Baron has been picked up. G2 are still ahead. They still have this exact same setup.
They keep on growing that lead. I mean, they've not needed luck this game. They just are playing that much better, but they're still making. We're starting to see them make a couple of mistakes that Origen have, for their part, unfortunately, not been able to punish too much. Losing the one member in the straight up 5v5. Now with the Baron push on, G2, we're going to go right back to the 1-3-1 strat.
And it's harsh to say it was mistakes. I think G2 were just getting a little bit tired of playing only that little play around the side and said, you guys, we are so far ahead, we can just take a team fight. Obviously, it was a close one. Got the Baron right after because Origen couldn't go in and check another time. Had no TP either from Soaz. And therefore, G2 gets what they want. Straight onto the tower, you get that little proc as well from the Rift Health buff for PerkZ. A lot of damage.
He should be able to secure this tower up, and he does get it. Playful Trickster, they know they can't catch him, so that one is free. Meanwhile, while they were moving around the map, G2 were able to grab an inner and out PerkZ onto Soaz solo, so the base is starting to crumble away from Origen. Their chances in this game 1 crumbling away. Kikis will chrono break back to safety after being caught by the Chains of Corruption. PerkZ is still on the inhibitor, splitting it, but he's got a lot of people coming towards him. Cavalry's arrived, and he should be able to continue this push quite so easily.
And there's no way for Origen to really engage onto him. He just tricks to the Maokai dash here like you just saw on top of the screen. And then you can't really lock him down. Another tower.
Inhibitor turret.
Zven very low from some poke. Maybe PowerOfEvil can engage it. No, it's actually on cooldown. He's ulti.
Just used a few moments ago. Trick a little bit low, though. He does use the blighted.
I was just fake hyping it up.
Yeah,
but that's no ulti.
I mean, this
Joke's
base,
on you.
The base is crumbling here, but this is really what started off several minutes ago now. Soaz a little bit low in this one. Ace in the hole. Amazing will block it off the front. Inhibitor's not gone down. G2 are a little bit low here, so they should have to back away really close. And another wish from Mithy just to keep them alive throughout all of it. 31.5 minutes, but G2 are looking to close this game out on their next push.
So 1 inhib down. Another dragon for G2.
Hey, the regen is useful here. That will be number 4.
Ocean Drake, meaning there will be no more Drakes other than the Elder Drake. But G2 won't need it to finish out the game. Base is open. Focus on that mid inhib now. Bottom lane after. Obviously, Origen can keep sitting there and just try and fire over the wall and defend as much as possible. But it's been a game. It was decided almost at the 5 to 10 minute mark because we had that fight in the bottom lane that cost a flash from PowerOfEvil. He gets dove right after by the Fizz and the Kindred, and then suddenly PerkZ was extremely far ahead, and Origen and the composition just fell apart.
Yeah. And G2 have just run away with it from there. Over 10,000 gold ahead. 6 figures in the bank. G2 eSports, 5 figures, sorry. I can't do math ever. Origen really need to just think about how they're going to adapt for the next game, how they're going to change the pick and ban strategy, how they're going to change the early game. They are the ones who opted into that lane swap scenario.
Which
and
was fine.
It looked good and even for a while, yes. But then they got a little too hyphy trying to get picks, and it gave G2 the opening to start building that lead.
And that's the thing, you have some time now. Obviously discuss, you know, what can we change in here while you are sitting there defending. You're waiting for G2 to maybe overextend. I like that last little inhib turret.
Yeah. They're running out of room.
You're definitely, I mean, you have been for the last 30 minutes, basically.
I mean, you're getting backed up very, very slowly over the cliff. That is your own fountain. And G2 just keep on nudging inch by inch by inch. An open inhibitor in the mid that PerkZ is worrying at. No inhibitor in the top. A tower under siege now. Trick is caught for just a second. He does get the Lamb's Respite down. First time he's really had to use that all game. So they do get pushed back for the moment. Origen still showing that they can fight, but unfortunately PerkZ isn't too worried about that as he just takes a trident to the inhibitor for free.
Let's see some of the damage Origen can do. Great burst if they also manage to lock down one of the targets, but Soraka is there to heal it, Kindred ult is there to save you.
Come right back in.
Ooh, Trick now, no.
Oh, amazing. Ooh, he got caught, chunked out very low here. PerkZ is threatening on the outside after he finished off the inhibitor. Tower has gone down. Origen are down to Nexus turrets, and it may only be one as PerkZ finishes off that one. One Nexus turret, one inhibitor is all that's left of their base at this point. OG trying to hang on by a thread, but you've got to think they're thinking about the game number 2.
And we just see G2 trying to get out of combat so they can benefit from this movement speed and get the fantastic cape behind them, the wind. Because that's what you do with the Cloud Drake, you just get out of combat. But no, they're actually trying to win the game, guys.
And here we go. Kikis teleporting in on this one. Last inhibitor will fall. The rest of OG are starting to melt away. Kikis going on into hybrid, dashing forward. So as tanky as the tree is, it is not enough. A double kill for the top laner of G2 Esports. It is only going to be Nexus turret and only going to be Nexus just shy of 35 minutes into the game. And the reigning champs prove they are still supreme.
And by no means the game Origen were looking for. Coming in, wanted to show, obviously, that Zven and Mithy made the wrong decision by going to G2. However, the game literally falls apart at 10 minutes because this Fizz gets locked in as a last pick against the Varus. We talked about it multiple times, gets the early kills. Origen had a poor engage in mid lane as well. And as we said, you know, this kind of composition, it can't fall behind, especially not against things that can split push, because you never get to team fight 5-on-5 unless the other team literally tells you, come, stop this Baron and we will flank you and kill you. So the draft from Origen basically had no answers once they fell behind, and that made it look much weaker than it actually was.
That's very true, but you have to think